How many of you have heard about this movie, Waiting for Superman? The movie basically, it tells the story of 5 kids and their families as they compete for one of very few slots in their local charter schools through the lottery process, which I bet most of you or some of you know about. And through the experience of these kids and their families, the story reveals a system in crisis. And basically, the crisis we're facing in education is we cannot deliver enough quality education for the people who demand it. And alongside the story of our 5 protagonists, the movie also lays out quite a bit of evidence and quite a bit of opinion about why our system's in the crisis we're in. And essentially, the conclusion the movie draws is that it's the fault of the adults, primarily the teachers' unions, and that they have been operating a system that serves their interests, not those of the kids. And while the movie really is meant to be much more sort of provocative about the crisis we're in, it does get a little prescriptive in terms of its solutions. And it suggests that things like charter schools and teacher merit pay are the best strategies we have at hand. I've seen the movie now 5 times. I know it pretty well. And I can't argue with the message of the movie. Our system is failing our kids, left and right. And I can't argue with the intent of the film. Our system is in a crisis of epic proportion. We are running out of time, and we need everyone's help. And I mean everyone's, your help, everyone's help. But where I disagree with the film, or at least I want to argue with the film, and I've had the opportunity to tell the director, is that it is really, really unimaginative and pretty derivative in terms of the solutions it lays out at the end. Higher expectations, world-class standards, higher teacher pay. We have tried these for many, many years in multiple places, and they are not enough. I do not believe that the solution to our problem is going to come in the form of traditional policy, at least not alone. And that if we don't start thinking about this crisis as a radical design challenge, we are in serious, serious trouble. I started my career as a student at the T.C. Passios Elementary School in Lunenburg, Mass., a really small town, rural town. I made my way through middle school, high school, and eventually college. I was one of the incredibly lucky ones. I was a good student, but more than that, I knew how to make the system work for me. After college, a short stint at a ski shop, my first real job brought me back to education, and it was the start of my professional career in the field. I played a variety of roles. I was an English teacher, I was a policymaker, I've been a graduate student, I've been a professor, I've been a researcher, and I was ultimately a funder. And, all these jobs were pretty interesting. And like my career as a student, I had figured out how to make the system work for me. But I had never, ever figured out how to make the system work for the kids. And so, I actually started to resemble the adults that are critiqued in Waiting for Superman. And after a while of realizing how ineffectual I felt and how cynical I had grown, I left. I left the field. Until one day, I got a call from Connie Yowell, who's out there in the audience from the MacArthur Foundation, and she said to me, "What do you think about really reimagining education?" I said, "Oh, been there, done that, heard this, no, no, no." But I listened, and she convinced me. And I thought, she's talking the language that I want to talk. And I stepped back and I thought, not only is she talking the language I want to hear, but for the first time, in my lifetime anyway, I thought the circumstances of the crisis and the conditions of possibility might just align that we could make real change. And so I came back, and here I am. I came back a couple years ago now, And as was mentioned, I run these 2 projects. One is a new 501c3 called Startl, and the other is an independent project run out of my former home, which is the Social Science Research Council in New York. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, but about these projects. But before I do that, I want to just frame the work we do with some of our assumptions and some of our aspirations, okay? So, assumptions. First, for us, the future of education is not about schooling, it's about learning. As long as we continue to think about education in terms of 32 kids, 1 teacher, 1,500 square feet between the hours of 8 and 3, we are condemning the kids today to the same education experience that I got in 1976, that my father got in 1946, and that his father got in 1916. And as long as we constrain our vision of education to the school and not think about learning as something that can happen anywhere, anytime, we are, by default, limiting ourselves to interventions that are constrained to things like charter schools and higher teacher merit pay. Not bad things, but they are not enough. So, we really believe in thinking about the possibility of moving education out of the classroom into the streets, into the homes, into the libraries, into the museums, and so forth. Second assumption, technology is not an end in itself. It's purely a means to an end. And for us, that end is improved learning. You know, the idea, technology is not new to education. We have played around with the notions of ed tech for the last 30 years. But what's different today, or what's different, potentially different today, I'll say, is that what we've seen in this sector in terms of education technology have really been about the technologies that can improve the efficiency of schools rather than improve the efficacy of learning. And today, with the lower cost to build new technologies, the ubiquity of digital media, the opportunity to shift the focus from efficiency to effectiveness is right now. And we have to think about the fact that this is everything else in our kids' lives have evolved socially, culturally, technologically since 1976. Don't we owe it to them to offer the tools that are relevant to them, where they are, when they are, as they need them? You know, today, I don't know if you guys know the statistic, but 30% of our high school kids are dropping out. 50% in most urban centers. And when you ask them why, it's not because school's too hard. It's because it's boring, it's not relevant. 93% of our high school kids are online. Don't we need to rethink some of our assumptions? We are not technological determinists in any way. So we do not believe in throwing the technology over the fence and seeing what happens. We know from experience in this field, we know from looking at other fields, technology is never the silver bullet. In fact, more often than not, it's the bullet. So if we want our new technologies to really affect the positive change that we think it can have and not realize the negative change, we have to think about how to help our users translate all the affordances that folks like you, designers, build into these new technologies, into the learning experiences and outcomes that we want from these technologies. For us, learning is very much about social practices. So when we talk about technology, we don't envision kids sitting in front of a computer, reading PDFs, filling out online surveys. Nope. We don't see that at all. We see active, interactive experiences, connected, interconnected experiences, online, offline experiences, professional and amateur exchanges, peer and adult mentorships. It's technologically abled, but the practices are still social. So we don't see technology as displacing the teacher. We don't see it as replacing the schools. We see it as changing all the definitions and the dynamics of the roles and relationships that traditional people and places in this system played. So I want to make that clear. We are very much about turning this into learning anywhere, anytime, with the social aspects wrapped around it. So those are our assumptions, now our aspirations. We want our work to be disruptive. We believe it's our job to put out in the world real and radical examples of what the future of learning can look like. And if we don't turn heads or piss people off, we haven't done our job. We also believe that our work right now belongs at the edge. It doesn't mean we don't want to go into the mainstream, but what it means is, having looked at the system as long as we have, we believe the edge is the only place where the risk of failure and the opportunity for success is really allowed, or sex. That's interesting. Let's back that up. The opportunity for success is actually viable. And so we're not Pollyanna-ish about what that means. We know lots of what we do is going to fail. That's part of innovation, right? And we also know it's going to take a long time, in many cases, for some of the work we do on the edge to travel back to the center. But we don't see an alternative other than waiting. And we are not about that. Finally, we need to bring outsiders into this work. People who haven't thought of themselves as stakeholders in the system before. Thinkers, doers, makers, designers, technologists, entrepreneurs. You guys got to come in. We've got to move beyond the usual suspects. We need new insights. We need new perspectives. We need new approaches. And if we can't recruit you, I don't know what's going to happen. So those are our assumptions, our 3 assumptions, and our 3 aspirations. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Startl. So Startl is a new social enterprise dedicated to supporting the innovation of learner-centered tools and technologies. We launched just in January this year, after about a year of conceptualization. We have a really big vision. It's very aspirational, but I think we're going to achieve it. These are the components of how Startl operates. I'm not going to go into great detail. We provide the services that these innovators and entrepreneurs need through a week-long design boost. So that's our product design and refinement camp. And we do that, we run that in operation with IDEO as our partner. The accelerator, we run in partnership with an outfit called Dream Adventures in Philadelphia. And if the boost is our product design and refinement camp, then the accelerator is our startup business development. And that's 3 months in the summer. We also run showcases. We ran a summit this June. We had 250 people come. We showed off about 10 companies, many of which are getting follow-on investment. And I just want to show you a couple of them so you get a sense of the types of things that we're looking to put out in the world. So first, Mind Snacks is a new game studio that focuses on learning games. I'm going to let their product promo tell you a little bit about what the game, their first release, does. Available in the App Store. This product I want to tell you about also came through our design boost. This was started by 3 young guys, just actually still in graduate school at NYU ITP when they came to us. Real just enthusiasts about wildlife biology and ecology with some experience in the mobile field. They came to us with a homework project. And they said, I think we have an idea here. And I said, yeah, I think you guys have an incredible idea here. This is really big. And basically, what NOAA does through a variety of mobile applications as well as browser-based applications is lets the amateur and the professional scientist collect, document, and discuss wildlife data of any kind in a variety of different ways. Most exciting for me is it's used by real research teams at universities. We've got 4 teams using it right now. It's used by kids in our learning network. And it was also used in the Gulf oil spill, so that professional scientists, amateurs, went out and documented the state of the pelicans with this tool. So it's got a wide range of applications and real opportunity. I want to move on and tell you a little bit about the learning network. You know, we just went through a pilot phase this year. So we started with a community of institutions who are willing to take the risk and take the journey with us in terms of experimenting with digital learning experiences and youth-centered practices. Now, as I mentioned, you know, it's not about throwing technology over the fence. It's really about also building the context for the youth. So if Startl is about the tools and technologies, then the network is really about the context and practices. These are the institutions that we started with. We're 12 right now, and we're going to grow to 25 this year, and then ultimately to 50, and perhaps even bigger. But this just gives you a sense of the type and the diversity of folks we've been working with. So this summer we came out, and I want to be really explicit about this. This was a massive co-design project. We spent a year with representatives from these institutions, as well as kids who go to these institutions, or we hope will go to these institutions from the local neighborhoods, in figuring out what exactly should a learning network offer, what are they interested in. They came up with the parameters. I'm just director here. Neighborhood as learning context, and they really cared about urban sustainability, and they cared about civic engagement. So those are the principles, and they wanted mobile. So based on those principles, we helped them come up with some of the ways in which to implement that. So 3 of our things. Our first activity, our first experience was collect, construct, change. This is about youth-centered learning program to engage middle school age youth in the collection of scientific data around environmental pollutants in their neighborhood, but also learn the skills of advocacy. They presented to their borough president. Our second one is called A City of Neighborhoods. This focused more on the middle school, high school cusp right there. And this was really about using iPads and other mobile technologies to think about, well, if my neighborhood was in this situation, how might I design it for the future? So that was run out of the Bronx and also out of Chinatown. And finally, the third is Urban Biodiversity Network. So if the first was citizen science and environmental pollutants and advocacy, and the second was citizen designer, how do I make my neighborhood greener? The third one was, I'm citizen scientist and I want to understand what the state of my local ecology is in my neighborhood. This is where Noah comes back. You know, not all of the products out of Startl go into the network, and not all of the products in the network come from Startl, but this is one of those situations in which the match was just so clear. Just in conclusion, we're not waiting for Superman. We're trying to create superheroes who are going to change the face of learning, the future of learning, and the power of learning. What are you guys doing? I hope you'll join us.